What you doing?
I said,
Younger one.
she's getting her masses. She's,
Good evening, welcome to the planning board meeting of January 15th, 2019. Happy New Year to everybody. These meetings are recorded and are available on Milford TV. And with that, I'll open the meeting and
Motion on the minutes?
Motion to accept the meeting minutes from Pat, second. Seconded by John. All those in favor?
Was John here? John wasn't here.
Well, it's procedural.
say it anyway.
You can do it anyways. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You want to abstain or do you want to vote? Of meeting minutes. You can vote, it's a procedural.
Yeah, let it.
5 in favor, all in favor.
Okay.
We have 181P, 30 Birch Street, Rifleman Properties LLC.
I don't see him out
They're
there.
not here?
He wasn't sure whether he's gonna have it ready or not. So
Okay,
Good.
pass over it for now.
so I guess we'll, seeing how it's past 7:02, we'll open the public hearing for the application of Walden Woods Condominium Association. This is a continuation of the public hearing. Attorney Fernandez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Happy New Year to you and to the members of the board and staff that are present.
Can't hear you.
Oh, this isn't, oh, that's right.
That's not-
Yeah, this is just for that
That's
purpose.
for-
Actually, then let me stand and, because they have a bunch of people behind me as well. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for getting this meeting together again. And just to bring us up to date, a few months ago, we had our first hearing on this matter, and the matter is an amendment to the existing special permit. The original special permit for Walden Woods began in 2004, was approved in 2005, got under construction shortly thereafter, and the project was built, of course, during the Great Recession as well, and so it stretched out into 2015 and 16. So the project today is beginning its 15th year of existence from original permitting to final construction, and it is a filled 165-unit condominium project. As we know, it's built in the shape of a U, pretty much. It's down on Route 85. It both begins at one end and terminates at the other at Route 85, which is a busy roadway without sidewalks. The petition before you requests that you eliminate any conditions in the permit that relate to the requirement that sidewalks, the provision that sidewalks be built within the condominium project. We went through an extensive presentation and discussion about this the last time. All 5 members were present. It's not my intention to go back through it all. When we left that meeting, there seemed to be a consensus to at least consider the idea of eliminating the sidewalks in favor of an approach that is a shared use approach. And it, under Massachusetts Department of Transportation regulations, there is a concept of shared use where you have a roadway that is not connected to other subdivisions, where the traffic in that roadway is under 2,000 cars per day, where the speed limit is under 30 miles per hour, and as we discussed last time around, this condominium project was projected to have about 900 cars a day. The traffic count that we did put it at between 600 and 800. The speed limit is 15 miles per hour. The main road, as it comes up Walden Way, is 26 feet to Hawthorne, across Hawthorne at 26, and down back to Route 85 at 26. The balance of it is 24. And so the discussion that was taken up, and also to just remind, there was extensive work done in the area where sidewalks would be put in terms of irrigation and landscaping and the rest that would all be disturbed if the sidewalks were there. The condominium project has operated without sidewalks for all this time, and the vast majority of residents have indicated they would prefer to keep it that way. What the discussion last time was the use of that shared roadway concept, which would call for signage that says that it's pedestrians, that it's a shared roadway, and we did consider both putting a center line on the roadway as well as for the 26-foot portions of the roadway to have a 4-foot section set aside, divided by a stripe along the edge that would provide some area of separation for pedestrians from the traffic it would give guidance to where the traffic was to be with the gutter line as well as a center line. And that also encourages slower traffic. So the instruction to us at the conclusion of that meeting was to go back, to work with the town planner and the town engineer on a narrative even that would describe what that would look like in a decision. I believe that narrative has been placed before you for your consideration. And what we did do, and I believe Larry presented you with an aerial plan that showed the locations of the plan. We thought that this might be somewhat more helpful. I'm not going to try and post this on the board right now, but if I just bring this back to you and use this great easel of the black chair, that we could demonstrate to you that the area in red here is the area where the 4-foot line would come up, come across Hawthorne, and come back down Walden Way out to Route 85. The yellow line represents the center line that would come up, across, down, and all the way up along the 24-foot sections as well. And what you see in the narrative is a recommendation by the town planner and the engineer where signs would be placed that would be stacked signs with a pedestrian sign and a share the road sign that would be placed at certain stations along the road. And those 10 stations are designated on this plan as to where they would be located along here as the decision designates it, so that as people were traveling through, there would be a reminder that it is a shared road system and to be alert to that. And the signs would be placed on either side of the street. One direction it's 6, the other it's 4 signs, and they would be faced in such a way that, of course, they were facing traffic coming toward that sign, and they wouldn't be dual stacked on each side. They would be signs on one side of the road where people coming up would be reminded it was a shared road system, as well as pedestrians passing, and in the opposite direction, the same thing. And you start at the beginning, so it's coming into either one. You would see the signage, and then at certain curves and points along the roadway where the town engineer and the town planner felt, and we agreed it would be wise to have the signage reminding folks of it. So that's the simplicity of what we've proposed to you, what the narrative that has been placed before you suggests as a possible decision, amendment to the original special permit, and would ask for your favorable consideration on that, and are prepared to try and answer any questions that you might have regarding it.
Questions from the board? Other questions from anybody in the audience? Name and address?
It doesn't work.
Great. You want to give me one that
No,
does
that's-
work?
Oh, that
It
would
works, it works for them.
Excellent. Jamie Wheelock, Coniff Ave, and I have been following this for a while and have been really surprised to see that it's dragged out for this long, and disappointed that more people haven't come to support the please don't grant this amendment discussion. So here I am to stand up for let's not cave to this amendment proposal. The excuses about some PVC irrigation pipes that will have to be moved are beyond trivial. The concerns for several young trees are also not significant enough to sway me to think that the sidewalk is not, the sidewalk is less important than the possibility of either cutting the trees down and never seeing them again, moving them if they're so mature that they benefit from moving, or planting replacement trees. So that was the flimsiest of excuses I'd ever heard for why we shouldn't do something across the whole development. The developer historically has already benefited from many favorable changes to their plan, and you guys know that better than anybody else in town. I could try to enumerate several of them, but it's not even worth it because you guys know. To hear Reno speak in opposition to sidewalks in his own neighborhood after spearheading a $6 million Upper Charles Rail Trail project in Milford, which I do think is very nice. That really caught me off guard, okay? And that may not have anything to do with your opinion about how this project should go, but it needs to be said out loud that Milford's got a beautiful and expensive rail trail that Reno spearheaded, but to see him in opposition to a modest sidewalk in his own neighborhood was quite a surprise. Also, I'm interested to understand if Town Hall is doing anything to avoid the kind of details that led to this sort of issue falling through the cracks and forcing this absurd prolonged discussion from happening in the future. I hope that the planning board will not grant this amendment and to make sure to send a strong message to other developers wanting to do these sort of projects in town, that they will be held accountable for amenities that they presented in early stages of their permitting process that helped smooth the permitting process along, that they will have to follow through with those early proposals. There's probably a few things I've omitted to say other than I'm hoping that you people will see the wisdom of not supporting this amendment, please. Thank you.
Anyone else? Board?
No one else? Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing by Pat, seconded by John. All those in favor of closing the public hearing will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 5.
I'll further make a motion to support the proposal as written and highlighted through the draft notion.
Motion by Pat to move forward with the amendment to the special permit, along with the drawings indicating the sign locations. Here a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? I just have a couple that, I'm just not sure that, and this is me, but one of the other things that we mentioned along the way was we talked about we're not a policing board, and I see us putting pavement markings on that we have no mechanism to ever police. I mean, we're to me, I think the pavement markings are a waste of time and money, because I don't think we're ever gonna be able to police those anyways. I'm not convinced that this is the best alternative. I hadn't been for it before. I think there was some more effort that could have been made to get some form of sidewalks to provide some level of safety, which is what, regardless of what Mass Highway says or does, and I've looked at multiple options on there, and I'm not sure I found any that were to this width and usage. And I also looked in numerous better street things, and I'm just not comfortable with it myself, but I'm also wondering whether, what the pavement markings do. So those are just my comments on the motion. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of amending the special permit will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Thank you.
Jamie looks, I don't know, he's kind of, I don't know, is he 9? Am I making that up?
Yeah, say 9. Say
He
somewhere.
never said it.
Just say somewhere, kind of. Can you just put somewhere, kind of?
Somewhere, he's somewhere up there.
somewhere.
Idea.
You around tomorrow,
John, you're not paid by the hour, are you?
next day or two?
Have a good night.
Let me see what I can do.
Yeah, 'cause I gotta tweak this anyway.
Yeah, I'll check the sign. I'll check the sign caller to make sure it's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna look too, and if worse comes to worse, there may be a different code number, but I thought I thought it was.
I think that one might be right. I'm just not sure.
Have a good night.
Accept the proposal as written.
I missed that time, talking to him, because,
The book I got it out of was PDF. I can't even remember where I got it. Maybe it was just online. But it has both 11 and 12 on there. I think the 12 is the one that
12
has
is the blank one. I just want to make sure, too, that it's a general purpose, not because,
I didn't mess this up.
and maybe it works, but I thought it was people would be crossing the road signal in a non-crosswalk condition. That's somewhat what there, but that isn't what we're really saying. I mean, we're saying they have rights everywhere, so I don't know that this meets MUTCD. If it doesn't, I don't want to put it up, because we shouldn't.
Well, we'll see. We'll confirm it and then just leave it right. But
Right, the share the road's fine, but the other one we shouldn't put up unless because that gives a connotation that people are crossing, not walking with you.
Everybody that was here to leave. How are you?
I'll look up the call up.
Where's your better half?
Okay.
that was,
Do number 3 when you get, since you got up and left.
I'm gonna come now.
Yeah.
You can close the
can you close the door?
door on your way out, please.
Both of them?
well, they didn't hear you.
I don't know if people are trying to come in, Larry. I don't know.
She's the kindest.
Never got to say a word.
She was a real giver. She taught my kids. Engineer's name in front of you?
I don't remember. No, they'll change.
Yeah. I remember when she was living
No.
Pleasant Street.
No, not even close.
Got a fire. We were all probably gonna endorse this next.
I'd say so.
Woodland School for a long time. I never enjoyed so much. Please stay. So much fun.
Well, you almost got the door shut. She's an early riser.
She is.
When she was teaching, I go down to do it 5 o'clock in the morning and get a coffee for her. She'd come and open this. She'd open the side door and we'd sit there and bullshit.
Next item on the agenda is the signing of the definitive plan for Silver Hill Road and Congress Street. We have the plan in front of us.
Got the clerk's certificate on it?
Are we all signing it, Joe, or just you?
Nope.
No, I think it's an all or nothing.
This is everybody, yeah, because this is a
Oh, yeah,
Definitive
okay.
plan.
I got it, yeah.
the changes have been made with the radius, and the clerk's signature has already been signed.
Motion.
Motion to sign the definitive plan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by John. All those in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Unanimous at 5. We can sign it after the meeting.
Sure.
Amended site plan for 196 East Main Street, Quarry Square Realty Trust.
Dale McKinnon from Carrier in Holland.
How do you spell your last name, sir?
McKinnon, M-A-C, capital K-I-N-N-O-N.
M-A-C, there you go. Thank you, sir.
When last we were here, we were proposing to increase the amount of cars for the transportation area for the, and we are no longer doing that. We're going to
Thank you.
stay with the same number that are approved. In the back of the two, in the packet that you're getting is the approved Mylar, copy of the approved Mylar, which shows where the spaces were approved. What this plan now is asking for is that, taking some of the suggested items with a concern of that there was so many locations, we're proposing to still build this area up in this northeast corner, but move the spaces that were basically in front of this area up to this location and slightly move. This particular block is just going to move one row southerly, just to give us more typical spaces closer to this area here. So we're taking, trying to, basically the northeast corner, we can't use this area because you're concerned about the traffic, and so these other areas. So what we're asking for is the same quantity that was approved in the Mylar, but we're asking for these new locations for the parked car, and we think this addresses some of your concerns.
Questions from the board?
Was he gonna do a traffic study or no?
We had asked for the traffic study when they asked for the additional spots. We never said anything in terms of them, this is exactly what they had before. So this is a change from what they brought before. We had said in order for them to get any additional spots, we wanted to do a traffic study. So that's sort of where we are.
And this is an improvement on where.
No. A few other quick questions. Am I to conclude now that Amazon's needs have changed and they no longer require as many vans?
I can't comment on Amazon's.
All right, and then you want to, the area that was, I guess, previous to the former Stop and Shop, you want to relocate closer to the bank?
No, the opposite. All we're doing is, there was 266 that was in the middle here, and what we're doing is we're essentially moving 136 up to this northeast corner away from there. The only thing we did over near the bank was we had a slot of 51, and we moved those one row southerly so that we'd have more access to these commercial sites and have that parking in their area.
Well, and they break where the grade changes physically in the lot as well, so it's gonna be easier to tell.
Yeah. So we essentially have these rectangular areas, and we didn't, because we had proposed some different smaller areas in this area, so it's just going to be easier to maintain, which was the concern of keeping the drivers in the appropriate locations. And we think that this will give you what you asked for.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the ones that you're talking about, that you are, the existing ones, the 166 spaces,
There were 266 proposed,
Am I on the
and the
wrong
black one in the back.
okay,
That's where they were.
okay. Say that again, I'm sorry.
They're in the back, the plan shows where they were approved here.
Right,
And
These
what
little
we've
ones are
done
all
that's what I
gone.
thought, yeah.
Little ones are gone.
And so what we're doing is moving them into this northeast corner and
Okay.
getting it away from the other commercial.
Okay. Because they're already parking in the other spot, that biggest spot.
Well, there's
Right
two
now.
now. We're
They're-
No,
building-
down further.
Yeah, that's-
Down by where the Weight Watchers is, they're already parking there, correct?
They're parked, yes, they're parking here, but we're moving it one row southerly, that's all.
I'm talking to your right. that
This,
big-
yes.
They are already parking there.
Correct.
Okay.
That was the
But we've
first,
reduced-
that was the first area we were.
We've reduced this from the original approval now so that it's down to 172 where it was 266 in that area.
Right.
And taking all these smaller ones and proposing to move it up into this northeast corner.
Okay, when is this proposed move, because you got site work and paving and everything still to do in that new area?
That's correct.
So they're gonna stay down,
They would stay where they're approved now until that is constructed.
okay? So, do we want to amend it now, or do we want to amend it after the,
Well, he needs to get an approved plan in order
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, so you'd wait.
I mean, they can't, they're not supposed to be using any of the others until that point in time, but we need to approve the plan before we
Yeah.
can do the construction. Were we all set, Larry? I don't remember what that other parking was, the drainage. Was Mike comfortable with the drainage layout to recreate the old drainage in that parking lot?
Yeah, the concern we had left was that the driveways needed to be combined. So instead of doing one of the suggestions that Mike had, they used the existing westerly drive and blocked the proposed second driveway. So now there's this existing driveway, the existing westerly driveway,
Okay.
and then there's a connection internally. So there's only one driveway. In fact, this is better because
It's further
it's
from the-
further from the corner where the stop sign is.
Any other questions from the board, comments?
The only comment is, I've been there a couple of days and checking it. Being after Christmas, there must be a great difference, because I didn't see they seem to be staggering their vehicles going out and coming in, like in 10-minute increments, and, actually, it looked pretty,
Unfortunately, it's probably
Pretty
something
smooth.
that will need to be monitored to some extent, but I
agree
mean, at least I
with
think it's
that.
an attempt to,
I just-
and the fact that we don't have the additional vehicles, I'm more apt to say we don't need the traffic study at this point.
I just hope there's something in that building before
Well,
next
that's-
Christmas, and
yeah.
we don't have to.
Well, Amazon may have watched the YouTube playback of the meeting.
That's very true.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we sign the amended.
Motion been made to approve the amended site plan by Babe. Second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Lena. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
4 in favor, 1 opposed. That's
You're
opposed.
consistent.
Everyone knows. But thank you, Joe.
Thank you. That's just me for the signature, right, Larry? That's just me for the signature, right?
Yes,
Oh, I can sign it. They can just bring the Mylar.
Okay. Why don't we do the Chenilla Crossing retaining wall installation schedule, Larry, if you have information on that, because we'll take the zoning amendments last.
Well, I don't know that they really had gotten back with Mike much, but his take on it is that a May 1st date would be a reasonable starting point, and maybe that'll get their attention to come back and confirm. But I don't think that he's been able to have contact with anybody from Sonora.
Well, I think we ought to wait until at least the next meeting and ask Mike to get in touch with him, so.
Yes.
Well,
I
he's been
agree.
trying to contact them.
Well, I
They're
understand.
They're not responding, so.
Wow. We can not respond the other way and put the concrete walls in too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, if you could ask them to continue to reach out to them.
Yep.
I would say that as part of that reach out, that, based on the meeting that we had with the board prior, we sort of all left with an agreement that they'd come back with a schedule, and that
Yep.
if they expect the board to work with them, we would expect reciprocal with them, and that silence is not good for them.
It's not, yes, I know. So we tried to tell them. We'll try it again.
Well, now you have the board saying it, not just Mike. With that, we can go to the possible zoning amendment for projecting signs. Larry had called me and asked to put this on the agenda. I believe this was an outcome of a sign that's been installed in the town, Larry, that started this.
Well, a couple different things. That and the whole downtown facade improvement program, the grant program that the town was able to initiate and get some state funding for. Right now, I believe there are 12 proposals in the downtown area to participate in that grant program. And many of their applications, other than just, repainting the facades or changing awnings, some of them are into signage. In fact, most of them are into changing signs, but a few of them would have either existing projecting signs or want to consider their new sign to be a projecting sign. So to try to head as much of it off as the pass as we could, I thought it'd be appropriate to start the process to see if the board would be interested in sponsoring an amendment that obviously this wouldn't affect or help this grant round, but the next grant round next year could benefit from it. So to the extent that there's a lot of stuff on those 12 applications that can legitimately spend grant money on those facades without getting into this particular signage issue. Whether this got passed this year or not isn't going to make that much difference. But certainly going forward, as the program takes off, and I'm not sure that all 12 are going to get approved, but even if they did, that doesn't mean that they couldn't reapply next year for other aspects of their facade that may include this kind of signage. But since it came up, it seemed, since our bylaw clearly doesn't allow for it, we should
Just
Talk about it.
just for the board's edification.
Thank you.
Projecting signs, the intent of these are those signs that are coming out from a building perpendicular. So they stick out from the building. They're not, not the ones that are attached directly on the building and then run with the building. These stick out.
Right.
Similar to like a clock.
Yeah, similar to like Home National's clock that used to
Okay,
be on,
okay.
except there'd be a sign.
Okay. I just
so-
wasn't sure exactly what.
Yep. So that's what this is dealing with. I'm surprised there's that many up on Main Street, only because most of those buildings, I believe, are right on the property line, so I'm not sure where they get the rights to do that.
Well, that's another separate issue because
that's what I was-
the sign bylaw doesn't allow them in the right-of-way anyway. That doesn't mean it would necessarily be impossible to do it in the future.
Yep.
But it takes more than just fiddling with the
Right.
zoning bylaw to allow for that.
Yeah, I don't-
The selectmen would need to issue some kind of an easement
Right.
to do it. We've done it for other types of structures in other instances, but they would need to repeat that process if they're of a mind to, in addition to whatever zoning.
They can do it just as an easement, that doesn't need to go to town meeting. It was only for sale of land that they
Right.
would have to go to town meeting. So the selectmen could grant an easement.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that or not. I mean, that's something else that we'd have
Yeah.
to consider, but this would not, this type of change doesn't allow for that type of usage. It only allows for the sign itself. The sign needs to be located 100% within their property in order for it to be approved as part of this. If we move forward, or if they move forward with that's gonna be something else that would need to go to the, I guess it would need to go to the selectmen, and we would then have to change ours to allow for blade signs to be able to be in the public right of way, I guess.
Or they possibly could get a variance, but that, I've got to talk to town council about the propriety of that. Projecting into the public right-of-way is a little bit different than not meeting a setback.
Yeah,
So,
Getting the variance on somebody else's property is,
Right.
This is a little challenging.
So, but in terms of future discussions, hopefully, we can schedule this at additional meetings to kind of flesh it out. I know at least some members of the Downtown Improvement Committee would be glad to come and discuss it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, for those that are interested, one of these signs has gone up on the building that was redone, Mike Nofri's old building.
Yeah.
There's a new sign out there that would fall under this bylaw, so if you wanted to take a look at what
Oh, I
those look
will.
like, that's, and the sign actually, to me, the sign is fits in very well. It looks nice, and is probably, in a certain sense, and this is another thing for us to think about in terms of how we monitor this, and I haven't looked at everything that Larry had in terms of how we monitor this or that. If you remember where Mike's sign was before in that building, and having this on the building, I think it improves the sight lines, improves, what you can see from there. So to me, it would be much better to have it there, and I think we want to move along forward with that, but we need to be careful in terms of regulations as to where they are or aren't, and so that'll be part of, going forward with this, but I think it's worthwhile to have this available to people if they want to use it.
Sure.
Is that right on the house?
I can schedule it the next meeting or two and have
things like that.
the others come,
I'll have to go by there.
at least give you their opinions.
drive through
Because I know they're in favor of doing this. I just figured it would be better for us to get ahead of the whole thing and come up with something. We're typically the ones that do that, so
Well,
then they can come and,
I think, between the next meeting or the meeting after, we should definitely schedule it. And the only reason why I'm saying that is depending on what we have on the schedule.
Right.
If you have a light meeting next time, then let's put it on.
Yeah.
You've got a
Right.
week to decide that, so.
Yep. Because we'll be getting into the whole warrant opening and closing and the whole
Yeah.
remand for an article anyway with the selectmen, so.
One of the, I don't know that I've mentioned it before to you, Larry, but I almost hate bringing it up, but seeing how it's the dearth of us in a certain sense, is the parking regulations again. And the reason why I'm thinking as to whether it needs to be looked at again or not, especially as it relates to commercial and to a certain extent, business usage. We're seeing a lot now of people taking parking spaces and putting up electric vehicle stuff.
Putting
We're
up
seeing
what, Joe?
Electric vehicle
Oh, yeah,
charging.
right,
locations.
right.
We're seeing a lot of restaurants going by and putting up signs that say for
Veterans
pickups,
parking.
for pickups only.
Delivery van only,
Yes, and
which was never calculated.
right, which was never calculated. And I'm not sure that I think we need additional parking, that you know, our parking is such that we're crowded all the time. But I'm getting concerned about the fact that there's all these things coming up. They're not provided for in the bylaw, and somewhere along the way, we're gonna get into issues with it or not, especially as technology continues to change. So for as much as I hate going back and looking at the parking bylaw, I think we may wanna see where people are going with that, how they've changed. You know, restaurants certainly bother me, and that they're all now going to, you know, call and pick up.
Curbside, yep.
And so now we got 4 spaces that are curbside pickup. Well, you know, do we
Well,
meet
in
the?
terms of seeing changes occurring without coming back through the board, depending on what they're doing, like the electric charging stations, those aren't counted as part of the parking spaces. So what has happened, the few that have gone in, and I think there's some in the Big Y Plaza around in the back, that they had enough parking that they could do that. They would have probably put in more, but they didn't have that many spaces. So we've never counted those kinds of things as legitimate off-street parking spaces.
And again, this is not a reflection on, I think we have an issue and we've got to get in front of this. This is, technology is changing, usages are changing, and I think we need to look at the bylaw to go forward. So I'm not out to go calling people and saying they don't have enough parking, you can't do that, or stuff like that. You know, there's various places that I know have done that, but I don't think we're in that crisis type thing. But I just think we need to get in front of it and plan for it.
Yeah, we may want to, you know, come up with a percentage, so to speak, of what would be classified as specialty parking, which would cover, obviously, if you want to call it veterans parking, if you want to do electric parking, if you want to do pickup parking, whatever. You know, parents with young infants or whatever. I mean, there's a whole
Yeah.
new regime of different signs out there to attract
Yeah.
buyers, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I call it specialty parking. I mean, that's,
Yeah, that may be fine.
I would call it that.
I mean, I think we may want to look at differentiating short-term, long-term, whether it's specialty or not. You know, the pickups they should be 5 minutes in and out. How do we handle those versus, a veteran still takes a parking spot. They're gonna be there for as long as anybody else. How do you handle those types of things?
Well, right
Electric, they're
now-
gonna be parked there for a
to
full
me, it's
meal.
kind of funny that they're reserving a spot for a veteran, and to me, if a veteran was gonna go, they're gonna park, if they have to go there and shop, they're gonna park in a regular spot or that spot, whatever. They're still considered a shopper. That to me is not, you know, is not that big of a deal. A mother with an infant is not that big of a deal to me, because you know, if 5 women come in with kids, if there's only one spot, the other 4 women to go park somewhere else. That's just reality. I mean,
Right.
we all did.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah.
It's more the issue the other way, if you're fully crowded and there's a
Yeah.
spot open.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't have a child, I can't park there, I'm not a veteran, I can't park there. You know, is that, how do we handle that?
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
right.
And, I mean, some veterans won't even park when they're able to do that.
Nope.
If you put the signs out, you really want them to use it at that point, because that's why they're there.
But the changes that merchants have usually instigated were requiring changes in the circulation. which triggers coming back before you with the site plan review anyway. Because a lot of merchants don't want to just have their staff wandering around the parking lot. They want to designate an area, so they have a whole separate aisle like we've seen. We've approved a couple different ones at the Big Y based on prior supermarkets that were there. There are at least two that I can remember. So to the extent that those kinds of things are changing something in the traffic pattern or whatever, then you don't want to count them as stalls necessarily, but you definitely want to review what it's doing to the circulation pattern and whether it's negatively affecting it or not. It's similar to the guys coming in, with the propane tanks. They come in with the cages and want to set them in the middle of a sidewalk just because it's convenient for them. Well, the fact that it blocks an accessible way for handicap accessibility and the fact that it blocks the sidewalk anyway, they don't care. But those are the things that come, in fact, we're going to have one that's coming as a site plan amendment to make sure that it's not messing something else up. So whether you count them as a parking space or not is almost a much lesser issue than what it's doing to the circulation pattern with the vehicles and what it's doing to accessible routes for handicap access. So anyway,
Yeah.
I think take a look.
Yeah, take a look and see what other people have or haven't done. I mean, I haven't run across any. That doesn't mean that other people haven't certainly addressed it to some level. I'd like to, again, this isn't meant necessarily to be next town meeting or anything, but I think we need to start the ball rolling to at least start taking a look at it and see how it would affect us.
I think Lowe's goes back and forth with whether they have delivery vehicles
Yeah,
or
they
not.
get- right.
What, 1 month they do, the next, it's like they have for 6 months and
Yeah.
they get rid of them, so.
Yeah,
They're
and-
notorious for blocking parking
And,
for.
and again, their parking is such, I've never seen it that crowded, so I'm not running out there
No.
to say, oh, we should do something. But if they're gonna have those, I'd like to have them defined and then know in terms of how
The
it
specific,
affects.
the other thing that they do is they move them around.
Mm-hmm.
They do, so one time they're over here, then, one time they were Lowe's trucks, then they went, and they must have done a deal with Hertz. So then they were parked over here and said, reserve parking for the Hertz, whatever. And then sometimes you go up there and they're all gone, so like I said, if they're gonna do it, it'd be nice to know what the defined areas should always be, not just round robin.
Wherever they want
It's
to put it.
definitely with the electric charging stations. It's gonna be,
Big business.
that's gonna be a mandated thing like the handicap spaces soon. I happen to go to a continuing education seminar this weekend for my construction supervisor's license. And that was one of the things with this new energy code. As of July 1st, if you build a house or you build a garage or next to your house, as of July 1st, you have to put a charging
Charging
in
station.
the house.
Wow.
And the energy
Wow.
code is changing so much that this is gonna be, we laughed when I was working in Springfield at the state office building, they brought in, and they made them put a charging thing in, we didn't have no parking there anyway, and now they put it in, but this is getting to be a serious thing with the,
What's the up
the
and
governor, the governor is definitely pushing
Yep.
for it, so I was surprised, listening to these people about the
It's gonna happen.
To your point, babe, I was at the Natick Mall, and I never go to the Natick Mall, but we went to the Natick Mall last week. We parked over there by the grocery store.
Yeah.
And when we pulled in, there's 4 spots specific for electric cars. Now, over in Natick, I'm not surprised that they were full when we pulled in. When we left, to my surprise, there was 4 different cars there being charged. So I can see in certain applications that those are wildly popular. Now, attractively enough, they were free charging, which I thought was interesting, because most of them are.
credit card, right?
Not these, there was a big sign, I forget, city or, somebody was sponsoring them, and it was free charging. That's probably why I saw
Yeah.
why they
4
were
ones in the, and then 4 different ones
They
when I
heard
left.
about it.
That's why you had a bunch.
But, yeah, this
Yeah, well,
is-
Tesla originally, when they started, put up a bunch of stations, and if you have an original Tesla there, the charging stations are free,
Yeah.
where they put them up, and you'll see them they're on the Merritt. At the Merritt stops, there's, there's certainly whether businesses do it or not, I can see businesses doing it, some of the bigger businesses having them available to their employees and stuff.
A lot of college
So-
campuses are all.
So I mean, I think it's something that we just need
Yeah,
to, we need to be aware of and see how we want to handle it.
Like I say, it's
Right.
gonna be, it's gonna be
mandated,
it's gonna
so-
be a mandated, a
I mean, I
mandated
think, I
thing.
think it's relatively, you know, in most cases, especially as you get more and more electric vehicles, there'll be more and more of an ability for people to use the spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, now, to a certain extent, if you put aside and you say, okay, you same amount of parking spaces, we're gonna put 5 away for electric, you may not get 5 there right now, but certainly that's gonna change going forward.
I have a technical question. If I could, Joe.
Yeah.
Larry, I certainly appreciate the visual on the marker lane on,
Oh, the flex post?
yeah, I think I think it's long overdue and it's wonderful. My question to you is, and I don't know if there's enough room, and there probably isn't, but is there any ability to do something similar but probably smaller on 109 that prohibits them turning left? Even though the sign says not to, and even though,
I know.
We're looking into it.
please, because I mean, that's just becoming sinful. I don't
It
know what
really
else we
is.
could possibly do.
Close it.
I see it all the time.
But I don't think it's fair, well, you're right, you could, but
You could what?
Stop and shop.
he said to close it. I don't think that'd be advisable, but,
Because the
No, too
people,
much street, too much on
the
Beaver
people
Street.
going west,
yeah.
I mean,
No,
to me-
because
first of all, I go down Beaver Street and I come in that way.
That's
Yeah,
how I
it's
do
like-
it.
It's a lot easier and it's a lot
you and I
smarter.
both do, that's why I
what I do
said,
every time.
and I take the left, and then bang the right in there, because that's what it's there for.
That's how I go.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going down and I have the choice, I go down 16, take the right on Beaver Street and come in that way,
Well,
and just not even bother
Right.
going down.
And
If
there-
I'm leaving my office arbitrarily speaking,
Yeah,
that
if you
would be
go
the way
right,
I
yeah,
go,
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
all.
we're
If
looking
I'm
into
leaving my house, I go the way you just
Getting out to
described.
109 on that right is a piece of cake.
Well, they're gonna signalize the light there, so that may help, but still, temporarily, I mean,
Is there
th-
anything we
We're
can
looking
do
at it.
about that?
that's what, they're looking
you just
into it.
said.
Yeah.
It'd be wonderful if you could do
There's gonna be
something
an
similar.
accident, that's for
There
sure.
already are. There's going to be.
Plenty of
You haven't been, there's been plenty of accidents.
Accidents there.
I mean, if you sit down there for 15 minutes, you'll see.
Listen,
you'll
you could be
see 3 or
driving
4
up and
people
someone cut
taking
in
a
front of
left.
you.
It's very
amazing.
scary.
Listen, I saw the Worcester bus doing it. Whatever that thing's called, the RTA, I don't know what it's called, but I saw it doing it.
MWRT.
Yeah, that's what it was, and I said, you gotta be kidding me. But hey, motion to adjourn.
No,
Oh, sorry,
Right.
babe.
Yep. Do you have something?
yeah,
Oh, all right.
could we, I don't know, either write, draft a letter, send a letter to the selectmen to try to straighten out this variance, the making of
Of what?
non-conforming,
The-
Non-conforming, oh.
the-
you know,
I don't know how we do that, babe. I mean,
I just,
Oh, you're talking about, I know what you're
yeah,
talking
I
about.
mean,
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you looked at some of the zoning decisions again. I think that's what Babe's referring to. I mean, one of them, I believe, is the sign again. You know, they granted a sign. I'm
Listen, what they did over there by Woodland School was an abomination. I don't know what they were thinking. Of all places to do it.
it's, again,
To create 2 lots, a side of a school, at a triangular intersection that is nothing more than a big glorified kid crossing is really what it is. And add 2 more houses, I don't think that was the right message.
Archer Street, again, you grant the variance with a house that's on, it's non-conforming in the beginning, now you make another lot, and one house is on the lot line, there's zero lot setback.
Well, I mean, we you know, the other one here, you got a 2.4 setback, it doesn't even meet zoning. You know, it's one thing if, you know, if it's on a street frontage, okay, you've got frontages on both sides. Okay, that's a hardship to a certain extent, okay, we can live with that. But then you go and grant a variance that doesn't even meet the zoning for the side yard setback. I don't know what that hardship is.
Maybe we
Again,
can pay to
it-
send it to zoning 101 seminar.
It's not that we're, not the granting, again, like Pat said before, if you're on a corner lot, you give them a side setback,
Yeah,
that's being human about the whole thing.
that's my opinion, yeah.
But to give them something where you're on the street is totally ridiculous.
They still baby out with bathwater.
I mean, I think I sat here 5 years ago and asked Larry and to ask town council, because I didn't believe that a lot of the decisions had any hardship, and I was told that the decision on hardship is truly theirs.
Yeah.
And we can't weigh in on the ability of there to be a hardship or not. I mean, I just look at the decisions though, and in terms of what, and I've said this multiple times, in terms of what the town and town meeting has said, in looking at the decisions, I'm not sure how strict our zoning is going forward. I mean, because if you look at the decisions that have been granted, it looks like all you need to do is take the effort to put in a variance request, and you may be able to get that. And I don't think that was the original reason for coming up with the zoning bylaw. I mean, I think there was a reason why the town wanted to do that. I think that was the look and feel that the town wanted to try to get to, but yet we don't seem to be making any headway on that. It's, you know, it's just a document to get into people's way as opposed to a way to give the
It's all
town feel.
predicated, to me, I'm sorry, but a lot of this is predicated to greed. When you look at some of the applicants that are from out of town, all it is self-motivation, for increased revenue to whatever they're trying to accomplish. I'm sorry, but that's my
that's-
2-cent
that's-
opinion.
Again, like I said,
It's not a true family hardship that,
somebody who had a piece of property that the family has owned for 100 years, and then they want to separate it, fine. But a guy that goes in and buys, or a
Yep.
company that goes in and buys a lot for this.
and the
then
realtor
cuts
says,
it-
hey, by the way, you could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, you can make out
And all
better.
they do is that they throw $100,000 into his pocket.
Yeah. So I said, it's predicated on profit.
Yeah,
I'm just not sure what, you know,
You can't draft a letter because
Yeah.
this goes nowhere. Because to that point, regardless, like town council has previously stated, they're their own
Couple-
independent board, that, you know, they determine what hardships are. I don't think they even realize that there's a clause on their paperwork that suggests a hardship needs to be identified.
it goes right through.
Well, there was a reason that the statute has the hardship language in there.
yeah.
There'd be some way to remind the ZBA members of that. I don't know exactly how you do that. but,
Did we?
I don't.
Listen, I know for a fact, sections of the Cape, they don't even look at the hardships because they don't believe you.
Right, that's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
What, you want a 1-foot variance? No.
No, it's not a
It
hardship.
just, no.
You shouldn't have done it.
What,
yeah.
what? You wanna put, no.
The,
No,
No.
it's very
You,
difficult in a lot
you
of
want,
cases.
you wanna put an addition that's 10 foot, but you know, your offset's 9, no, make it 9.
Right.
They don't care. So,
well,
But, anything else?
make a
We're
motion
good.
to adjourn.
Motion by Pat to adjourn, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Leaner, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous at 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.